will be there from 3 until 7 o'clock. And then and we're here. But we're talking about it as to the expectation of what Governor Bill Lee will prioritize in his State of the State address. And we're talking about it right now on the Murphy Show hotline in advance of the address tonight, and considering some of the remarks that are expected to be made with regard to transportation and our roadways and our infrastructure in the state of Tennessee. We are pleased to welcome the Commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Transportation, Butch Ely, to the show to talk about transportation and more broadly the governor's priorities this year and for the 4 years in his second term. Commissioner, first and foremost, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Hold on. Wait on it. Oh, thank you there, Bell. I appreciate it. Commissioner, I'll do it again. First and foremost, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Butch Ely.
Yes, you did, Matt, and it's great to be here with you today.
Well, it's fabulous to talk to you. It's our first opportunity to have a conversation. I've heard much about you, and obviously you've got a lot on your plate, not only as a deputy to the governor, but also commissioner of the Tennessee Department of Transportation. What are your let's start with, kind of your slice of the world when it comes to operations in government. What are your expectations about what the governor will say about our infrastructure projects moving forward and his hopes for this General Assembly?
Well, thank you. Thanks, Matt, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. 4 years ago when Governor Lee came into office, he really cast a vision for the state and said that he wanted to make life better for all of our 7 million Tennesseans. And today Tennessee really is leading the nation, and tonight we're going to be kind of unveiling next year's budget. And as you know, a budget is a reflection of the priorities of a state, and we want to make sure that we're continuing to lead. And one way to do that is to continue to invest in our infrastructure. And I think that most people in Tennessee would agree, whether they're in urban areas or rural areas and are trying to traverse our old 2-lane interstates that should probably be 3-lane or 4, that we need to make continued investment in transportation. And so what you'll hear tonight from the governor is he wants to continue to modernize our transportation plans, and we're going to be doing that and looking at other economic and educational opportunity, but certainly from a transportation standpoint, what we want to do is to make improvements, not just in the urban areas, but we've got a plan that we will roll out that will also invest in our rural areas across the state.
Commissioner Butch Ely with us this afternoon on the Matt Murphy Show, previewing some of the comments being made by the governor tonight, and you're invited to listen to that speech live right here at SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, and there are various other platforms by which you can watch it as well. Commissioner, obviously the project that has been previewed on this show and many others over the last several months that's getting most attention is the idea of a private-public partnership that we are calling choice lanes. Am I saying it the right way when I call it a choice lane? I know originally it was being described as toll lanes, and that was a bit confusing for folks because some mistook that for believing that toll roads were coming to Tennessee, and that's not the case, it's my understanding.
Yeah, that is a very important distinction, Matt, because I want to make sure there's no confusion between the choice lanes that we're proposing and the toll lanes that folks have seen or heard about in other parts of the country. With choice lanes, to be clear, Tennesseans will have a choice whether to get into that faster lane or not. And they'll also have a choice to stay in the current free or general purpose lane. So if you're riding in that free lane today and you want to do that, you'll be able to continue to do that. What we're talking about here is additional capacity that will allow people who so choose to be able to pay a fee to get over into that lane and to get to where they're going faster. But in no way is it the old what I would call traditional toll road, to where in order to get onto this road in the first place, you've got to pay a fee, and then to get off, you've got to pay a fee, and everybody on that road is paying a fee. So this is additional capacity to get you where you want to go faster, but it is a total choice.
I don't want to presume anything, Butch, but I would imagine, given the number of states who have taken this approach in the past, I believe Georgia, Florida, and Texas, all three come to mind. I would expect that would give you an opportunity to kind of look at what they've done, see what has worked, see what has not worked, and give you a really good roadmap as to how to proceed with this.
That's exactly right. The first thing the governor said is, look, I don't want to raise taxes. We're not going to do that. We're not going to propose going into debt to pay for this new infrastructure. But I want you to scan the country and look at what other states are doing that have already been where we are headed. And so we've been doing that over this past year. And as you pointed out, two of the biggest proponents of doing these choice lanes is Texas and Florida. Georgia is doing it, North Carolina, Virginia. Most of our states around us are doing in the Southeast are doing something similar to this. And so that's what we have done. And what we're asking for in the legislature this year is the authority from the legislature to be able to move into these public-private partnerships that get private investment from companies who will finance these new choice lanes, and then we are able to utilize what we would have to spend in those urban areas then to reallocate to other projects and to expansion in our rural areas to be able to get some of this three-laning done that we all know needs to be done.
Commissioner, not to get too far in the weeds here, but my curiosity gets the better of me when it comes to these types of projects. And speaking to someone, it's what you do every day of your working life, right? So is it just me, or projects like we're talking about, do they take longer nowadays? I mean, I'm 49 years old, and I don't pretend to understand it, but, I mean, I guess maybe you've heard this question before. Are they taking longer, and is it a priority to figure out how to speed some of the projects up?
You're exactly right, Matt. It takes us way too long to get these projects from start to finish. And that is a piece of the proposal that the governor is making as part of his legislation. The best way I can describe it is we have built things in silos, more like an assembly line approach over the years, where the second guy doesn't start his work until the first one finishes and throws it over. And what that means is that we don't advance everybody working on a project together. And so what we're proposing and what we have already piloted, thanks to working with our road builders in Tennessee, and our legislature several years ago gave us the authority to pilot projects that were design build projects, where you started the design of a project and then you brought on the contractor to go ahead and begin the construction at the same time the design was being finalized. And you got everybody in the room together to work together to think about beginning with the end in mind. And we're able to progress these projects much faster. Those in the Middle Tennessee area are familiar with I-440. That project was done that way. It was done in a little over 700 days, which is a little over or a couple of years, where that project, had it been the old way of doing things, would have taken much longer. And so all we're asking for there is to be able to kind of unleash and do more of these innovative or alternative delivery projects throughout the state and be able to build these projects faster.
So, Commissioner, just to clarify, I think I heard you correctly, but a number of people on our super text line are asking me to clarify this. These will be, if this project moves forward through the General Assembly and it comes to fruition, these will be additional lanes constructed. And I've heard this answer enough times to, I think I can presume that these are additional lanes that are constructed. You're not converting existing lanes, right?
Yes, that's correct. So part of the problem is now we don't have the lanes that we need and to be able to alleviate the congestion. And so what we're talking about doing is adding a lane, or it could be two lanes in certain places that demanded the economic demand was there to be able to do that. And so we would add those lanes. Some places, and this hasn't been determined, but what we would do if we are given the authority in this legislative session, then we would continue to do the homework over this following this year, and then we would come back in the next General Assembly session next year and specify what projects those were. But we anticipate, and we know from congestion studies that we have already done, that we've got bottlenecks in each of our four major urban areas throughout the state that we think there are good potential projects for in those areas, as well as we know that there are interstates throughout our other more rural areas throughout the state that really need to be expanded and widened to more than the two original lanes that they were built in back in the 70s. And that was a little before your time, Matt, but not mine. And so we're looking to try to make improvements. A big part of this is to make sure that we have improvement throughout the state in both our urban and rural areas.
I have a couple of questions from the super text line, and not to belabor this area, but this is obviously your area of expertise, Commissioner, so you're the guy to ask. How does this get? Does the private company pay for this on the front end? Is that how it works? Basically, I understand there's a lot of minutia involved, but the idea is you would work with a partnership with a private company. They front the money to construct the roads and then pay that back through the tolls.
Yes, that you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, the public-private partnership would advance the dollars, finance the dollars on the front end. They would build it, design it, build it, operate and maintain it, and this would be a long-term lease. And of course, this is not necessarily new. I mean, we've used the private sector contractors in the state to build our roads for many years, and so this is just another model or method to continue that, but also to have them finance that so that we can use the dollars that we would have had to use to do that to go and do more in other areas that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So we can reallocate or free up dollars as a result of that to be able to do more elsewhere. And then, as you just stated, they get their return over the long-term lease, where they get a portion of those revenues coming off of those user fees. And so that's exactly the way that works. I will point out that is important because we are never going to sell any of our state highway assets. And so the state is the owner. The state is always going to be the owner. This is a mere lease, like it would if we leased a building or land elsewhere. But that's the way this works.
Our guest is Commissioner Butch Ely. We've got him for about 60 more seconds, so I'll ask you two more questions, kind of rapid fire, Commissioner. And this is fascinating to me, and I would love perhaps to schedule with your office maybe a time where you could sit down with us for an hour and go over all of this, because I love talking with you about construction and government and private partnerships and the like. one, obviously, there's a right that there would be in any contract that existed with a private company. You would have a rider guaranteeing the maintaining of the roadways. A number of people are asking about this, but clearly that will be a priority on the government side of things to make sure that the roads that they build are maintained properly with the money that they recoup from the tolls prior. I mean, obviously, there's got to be a rider in the contract to assure that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's no different than when we go out here and build a road today. The state designs that and bids that out, and those contractors are required to meet a certain standard. There are standards and specs that they have to meet, compaction of the roadway, the design of the asphalt itself. All of those have to meet strict guidelines for every really feature and component on that roadway. And this is no different. They would have to not only meet those at construction, but they would have to meet those same standards at turnback when we took the road back over at the end of the lease. And so all of that is part of the contract. All that would be contemplated in part of the procurement process, which, by the way, would all be a competitive process, and we would get the best company, best value of being able to do that. And so all that would be a public competitive process.
I'm way over my promise to time, but I'm compelled to ask this question because I've got a number of people on me about it. Broadway Bridge. I mean, we're Nashville-centric here. I know you're thinking about the entire state, Commissioner, but right here in Nashville, folks are wondering what the time frame on the Broadway Bridge is.
Hey, no, that's a great question. We're working on it now. If you have come around the loop downtown, you've probably seen our construction staging area over there off the Mumbrim, and so we're leading up. I mean, they're already bringing in materials, and we're leading up to where we will actually close down. What we have determined is that we can do the work much faster if we actually close it down for 8 weeks. And we're scheduling to do that right after the 4th of July. We've worked with the community to make sure that we try to avoid the summer and the 4th of July break. And so, obviously, we've got so much going on in Nashville, which is a great thing, that it's hard to pick a time where there's nothing going on. But we all decided that that would be the least interrupted time to be able to do that. And it would be closed down for 8 weeks to where we were able to drop the old bridge. That bridge is 72 years old, I believe. It's been around a long time. It served us great, but we need to replace it, and then we would come in and be able to replace that bridge in that time period. And of course, there's construction going on now. We'll be reducing down from the 3 lanes to the 2 lanes, but we'll continue traffic, and we'll pick traffic back up after that 8-week time period.
Commissioner, thank you for spending a little extra time with us. I look forward to the next conversation. I look forward to the State of the State address tonight by the governor's office. We appreciate this, and we'll do it again very soon, sir.
Hey, thanks, Matt. And I'd love to schedule something to get back when you want to be able to spend some more time on that.
We're going to do it very soon. There's Commissioner Butch Ely, and I've pronounced his name correctly 3 times now, and I'm proud of myself. It's 12:25 on SuperTalk.
Thanks, Matt.
Yes, getting in the hang of things on WTN TV. If you are of the mindset and would like to do so, you can check us out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. And unlike some, I know what Twitch is. Look, Dan, look at what I found. See, you can, if you leave stuff around the studio now, you get in trouble because I can show it to you. Here's Dan's little note card. Dan Mandis of Nashville's Morning News was making notes about the new WTN TV where you can watch us, and he misspelled Twitch. Or maybe he just does his T's funny. One way or the other, you can watch us if you so desire. Hello, how are you? This is my beard. This is, well, you see me. So for what it's worth, I don't know why you would want to watch me on the television, but if you do, I thank you. And occasionally, every so often, you can watch me flip over here against the better wishes of Bell. Look, let's see, there's Bell. There he is. We'll get him a better background. We're going to get a better background for us. We're going to do a lot of things. And I'll work on my looks. I'll do what I can. So 615-737-9986. By the way, Bell, it's Valentine's week. It is the week for lovers. I think we should, I'll tell you what. Let's play a little Valentine's music for the folks this week. Let's play a few love songs for the people in the audience that want to get in the mood for love. Valentine's Day coming up, February the 14th. What is that? 8 days? Wait. So it's next week. One way or the other. I want some music for lovers. Thank you. 1231 on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. When we come back, speaking of lovers, did Fang Fang have anything to do with the Chinese balloon over the United States of America? Maybe she's sending a message to Representative Eric Swalwell. Believe it or not, liberal Democrats wanted to take a victory lap over what was an obvious public relations disaster and a disaster in terms of America's status as the most important superpower around the world with regard to this stupid Chinese spy balloon. I'll explain it all for you next. Take your call, 615-737-9986. Super text on the way as well, and Talk TV's up and running. It's the Matt Murphy Show on a Monday. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. Let's talk about painting season at Nashville Painting Company. They have the best interior pricing of the year. It always happens this way in January, February, and March. Jeremy wants to encourage you to examine your interior, and if you need interior work, they have the most aggressive pricing of the year right now. There's a free color consultation going on with in-house design specialists who are knowledgeable with all of the current color palettes. I wouldn't know what to tell you, if you on a bet. But they have the people that understand what colors are hot, what colors are not, and they can tell you all of that, the design trends, to help bring the vision that you have for your home to life. Color selection is always one of the most difficult things in terms of decision-making for the customer, and they have design specialists there to help you. Ask your sales consultant for a free interior product upgrade. If your home is quoted for example, Sherwin-Williams Duration, they will upgrade you at Nashville Painting Company to Sherwin-Williams Cashmere free of charge, and those savings can really add up depending on the size of your project. So I encourage you to make the call that so many others have made to Nashville Painting Company. Don't wait on this. Get scheduled today. They can come out very quickly and give you a free consultation ASAP. Nashville Painting Company online at NashvillePaintingCompany.com or give them a call, 615-635-0350. Call my friends at Nashville Painting Company. It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Sorry, I don't mean to come back from a very important advertisement timeout laughing, but I just happened to glance at the super text line, and someone is accusing me of looking mildly like Captain Lou Albano, which actually, you know what? I should probably grow this out for those watching on the Super Talk TV, and maybe if I grow this out, I could do the rubber band.
Yeah, I was going to say I can go downstairs and check supply and see if we got some rubber bands.
I'd have to grow it a little bit, but see, it doesn't grow in the middle anyway. So if it doesn't, and so I can these normally look like Fu Manchu anyway. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going Fu Manchu for the new year. What do you think?
Why not?
I mean, I'm taking my advice from this guy right here. That guy. That's the guy that I'm taking my advice from. Who
stop? I'm coming in there.
We've learned a new little fun game, and that's Matt clicks on Murphy and producer on the TV little thing. I don't even know what you would call it. The edit screen on the television. I click on Murphy and producer where you'll see Bell K, and Bell clicks off of it and clicks on Murphy.
What we call that is soon to be deleted.
That's not a page for us. I could go up and I'm not. You'll get used to it. You'll start to love it. People start complimenting you on that long mane of yours. Those
Do you genuinely think that matters to me either
those
way?
rosy jowls? Come on, man.
Hey, I'm down almost 24 pounds.
You look good.
Don't make me come in there.
You look good. I mean, as 6929 has just noted, it is your body, Bell. Let it be yours. Your opinion is the most important thing. You do you, and you're looking great. We've got to get you to a point where we're ready to present you to the female listening audience. Maybe we could get you set up on a blind date. Who would be willing to go on a blind date with Bell K if I paid for it?
The problem is that he's not going to reciprocate and go.
I think this is the most uncomfortable Bell's been since I've been here. All right, so let's go over the storyline arc of the Chinese spy balloon, shall we? 615-737-9986. So, believe it or not, liberals attempted to take a victory lap over this thing over the weekend. As a matter of fact, for a hot minute, they thought they had a real nice storyline regarding the Chinese spy balloon. Okay, so I don't know why we didn't hear about this until we started seeing it in Montana. Is it safe to work off the assumption, and it's difficult to do that, it's a scary thing to assume anything about the Biden administration because who knows what they don't know. But we have to believe that the Biden administration knew about this prior to it entering the continental United States, right? It went over Alaska. We have military installations, last I checked, in Alaska. So one would presume that we knew about this far before it descended through Canada. Oh, looky. Oh, look at there. Oh, looks like a big balloon, eh? Oh. Hey, you hoser. You can't shoot that with your hunting rifle there, eh? Into Montana, and then eventually across the continental United States of America, where the Biden administration said, no, we're not going to shoot it down over land. Now, first, what the hell sense does that make? You're telling me that you can't find it over an unpopulated area enough in Montana or whatnot that you can't manage a shot on that thing? I understand that it's big. Hell, just alert people down below to look up. Should be easy enough. Well, why wouldn't we wait until it gets over water, Matt? Have they found it yet? Have they found it yet? No, they haven't, by the way. Navy divers are currently looking for it. Might be a lot easier to find if it hits land than water. And don't tell me that, oh, well, hitting water would preserve the... No, it won't. Hitting water from that speed, at that speed from that distance is like hitting concrete. Destroyed on impact. The Biden administration knew about this prior to telling us about it. It was only until, average folks looked up and said, wait a minute, there seems to be a big balloon in the air. What is that? That they came clean with it. And after Joe Biden dilly-dallied around for a number of days and Pentagon officials decided to wait and allow the aggressive enemy nation of China to gather as much information as they needed prior to dispatching of the balloon off the coast of Myrtle Beach, the Biden administration, they lied about running interference on this thing, which I think is a bunch of malarkey. I think that will eventually turn out to be a lie. And for those of you going, we dispatched of it so they couldn't get back with the information. They were sending that information back to a spy satellite in real time. Okay, so the benefit of the balloon, and I did a little reading over the weekend, the benefit of the balloon is that the balloon can linger. The balloon can loiter. The balloon has an ability to just sit there. With a satellite running at the speeds that these satellites are running over, whatever distance they are in the air, they only have a very brief amount of time. Now, they could try to get in geocentric orbit, but that would be a little dangerous for them as well. So the benefit is that a balloon can loiter and take its time doing whatever surveillance that it wants to do. Well, loiter they did. And information they got. And once they were done with all of that, they allow the thing to continue along its way, and America eventually shoots it down where we have yet to find it. If you were really invested in finding it to find out what technologies the Chinese had on this balloon, you would have shot it down over land. Because the possibility exists that we will not find pieces of this Chinese surveillance balloon that they continue to call a weather balloon. But over the weekend, Jonathan Karl of ABC This Week, a sycophantic propaganda wing of the Democrat Party, they thought they had it, man. They had Marco Rubio on ABC This Week. I guess Martha Raddatz and George Stephanopoulos weren't available. And Marco Rubio was discussing the danger in allowing the Red Chinese this level of intelligence gathering, to which Jonathan Karl got him, man. Audio check there, Bell K. Jonathan Karl on ABC This Week with Marco Rubio.
He shot it down when he shot it down based on the advice of the military. You don't think he should have ordered it to be shot down earlier against the advice of the Joint Chiefs, do you?
Well, I think it first begins by understanding when did we first track it over airspace. Theoretically, if it entered to Alaska, NORAD, it's our system of spotting things and protecting both American and Canadian.
Now, this is the point that I just made. I'm going to suspend the audio cut for just a moment, too. This is the point that we made. Once we knew about this when it got into American airspace in Alaska, right? NORAD tracks Santa Claus. They can't track a weather balloon?
In airspace should have spotted it a lot earlier. So I'd love to hear from military officials about why wasn't it addressed earlier? What were the options at that point? Again, look, maybe in a closed session or maybe in the settings of with the benefit of hindsight, they'll have some real good arguments about why it couldn't be done. I recognize that you shoot something out of the sky that's the size of 3 buses and it lands in the wrong place. It could hurt, harm, kill people or damage infrastructure. But by the same token, I think that if that was the case, then I think it really would have been helpful for the President of the United States to get on national television and explain to the American people, this is what we're dealing with, this is what I'm going to do about it, and this is why I haven't done it yet.
No, this is exactly right, and a president more able to do that would have done that. And this is a point that is important to understand with regard to what we are going to experience in 2023 moving forward to the presidential election of 2024. There's a lot of decision-making going on amongst the Democrats having to do with Joe Biden's health. In other words, the way they would have liked to have handled this was to present the president to the American people and lie if they want him to lie, I mean, and they're going to do what they're going to do, but at very least have someone in front of the game saying, hey, we got this thing going on, this is the deal, this is what we know, this is what we don't know, this is what we're going to do. But you have to know the lies to tell the American people and the truth not to tell them if you're going to do that as a Democrat. And Joe Biden can't manage one between the other. Joe Biden can't remember what he's supposed to say and what he's supposed to lie about. Think about it, folks. You're dealing with a president that they can't trust to A, stay on teleprompter, and B, tell the truth or not tell the truth when he's supposed to not tell the truth. You've got to remember a lie. My grandfather taught me when I was a boy. And I've told many stories about my grandpa over the years. But the biggest takeaway that I came away with in my childhood was that there's two things that we ought not abide in this world, and that's liars and thieves. And they run in tandem. My grandfather told me one time when I was a real young kid, and I forget what I had done, but I was trying to get away with it, and I told him that I had not done it. And my grandfather looked at me and said, "You don't have a good enough memory to be a liar. And you're going to learn that sooner or later." Later on in my life, he expounded on that. I forget why, but we were talking about it, and he said, a liar has to have an incredible memory because you have to remember the lie that you told. You see, the truth just comes to you. Isn't it amazing? The truth just comes. You don't have to necessarily remember the truth. Now, you might not remember something that happened to you in the past, but if the memory comes to you, it comes to you as truth. It's an amazing thing. But a lie, if you told someone a lie 4 years ago and that comes back round, you better remember it because you might tell a different lie this time around to cover up the first lie. And then you're caught. You got to have a good memory to be a liar. Joe Biden doesn't have a memory. Oftentimes, I'm of the belief that Joe Biden doesn't really have a functioning brain. And so he cannot be trusted to stand before the American people and tell them political spin or half-truths, a.k.a. lies, with the expectation that he can remember what lie he's telling today based on what he told yesterday. So that's the way they have to handle these types of things. They have to act like there's no big deal. Don't worry about it. We'll handle it later. Secondarily, Jonathan Karl's the premise is that the military runs the show here. That the military says something, the president must abide by it. Obviously, the president is going to take advice from his military inner circle. And obviously, they're trying to err on the side of caution with regard to danger of Americans. But what is the greater danger? That property get destroyed? I don't think there was any chance that American lives were at risk. Because obviously, when they decided to shoot it down, if they did so in a speedy fashion, they could have figured out someplace over Montana or even before Montana, say Alaska, where it's an unpopulated area where the greatest risk is potentially for property damage, private property damage. Well, if that's the case, you can recompense someone, but I don't think there was a risk of a loss of life. So compare this, the risk of mild property damage in an isolated area versus the risk of American secrets falling into the hands of the Red Chinese. Which is more dangerous? I mean, maybe our military has gotten woke to the point that they don't consider this a danger. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But then Jonathan Karl really pulled out the gotcha question to Marco Rubio, or at least the gotcha statement. And it involved the Trump administration. You're not hearing a lot about this because it only took about 8 hours to dispel this lie being propagated by the propaganda wing of the Democrat Party. That would be Jonathan Karl of ABC News. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. Take your telephone calls. A feisty first hour of the Matt Murphy Show is underway on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and let's talk about your hearing. Brentwood Hearing Center is my recommendation for anyone experiencing hearing loss in the new year, or perhaps you've been experiencing hearing loss for a time now and you've not done anything about it. Statistics demonstrate, folks, that people wait years, sadly, to do anything about a decline in their ability to hear and to address their hearing challenges. Ronnie wants to change that at Brentwood Hearing Center. For over 3 decades, he's been attempting to do just that. And the hearing technology and the hearing devices that they have at Brentwood Hearing Center have never been better. I've seen them with my own eyes. Friends, you can hear better with a device from Brentwood Hearing Center. And Ronnie wants to show you around. He wants to put you through your paces with regard to your hearing because everyone's hearing loss is unique to you. and he wants to get you back to life. Whether it's going out to dinner or watching television with family and friends, call today to schedule your appointment to tailor an individualized plan for you. At Brentwood Hearing Center, better hearing for a better life, 615-377-0420. 377-0420 for Brentwood Hearing Center. Wait a minute. SuperTalk 99.7 WTN Pleasantries all. We're up and running. We got so many different places where you can consume the show. I can't even get them all in. Obviously, on the 99.7 signal, 100,000 watts of blowtorch power across the state of Tennessee and beyond. You can hit us up on the streaming services, the various apps that we have available to you. Facebook and Twitter and Twitch, as well as YouTube, are all presenting us on television. And we don't really know why, but they are. And I'm glad that we are because, now you can see how much I do with my hands. Now, I asked you, Bell K, moments ago, I said, hey, Bell's going to play some Valentine's Day music.
Correct.
When are we going to get that?
Well, I just started it.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I should have known. I should have been more specific.
What?
I should have been more specific. That is a great song. That's not appropriate for Valentine's Day. It
is 100% appropriate.
Time for lovers.
Stop jumping up and down.
We used to do, what did we call it? I did this bit for years where I would we'd take Valentine's Day roses to people who didn't have dates on Valentine's Day. I forget what we called it. It was SAD. It was an acronym, and it was SAD. It was SAD. I don't know. I'll have to get my thinking cap on. Those longtime listeners, maybe you know. When we come back, your thoughts on the balloon, the Chinese spy balloon. That's on the way. It's the Matt Murphy Show. Super Talk. All right, I want to circle your calendars, or I want you to circle your calendars. I will not do it individually for you. For February 22nd. That is the day where we'll get together at the Williamson County Chamber of Commerce. It's down in Cool Springs. You'll find the address easy enough, or better yet, just go to lt360.com and find all of the pertinent details and information about our next dinner and discussion with Coach Scott Oatsvall and the team at LT360. It is not a diet plan. It's not really a weight loss plan, although many of you will go to the plan. Many of you will go to this dinner because you want to lose weight, and rightly so. A lot of us are feeling it. I gained weight over the holidays, and I need to get it off now, and now's the time to get it done. Let's do this together. Let's commit together to LT360 for 2023. The way that starts, dinner and discussion, where you can ask all of your questions, and all will be answered by Coach Scott and his incredible team. You can get off drugs. The pharmaceuticals that have been prescribed to you over the years, for some reason, we just absorb that into our life and think, well, that's just the way that the world is now. I have to take these medicines every morning. Coach Scott knows that you don't, and he can help you with that as well. The weight will come off as a result of good in and good out. Good incomes, good outcomes. LT360 is all about that. Plus, you eat your own food. I mean, you don't have to do the prepackaged stuff. LT360.com for more information and to sign up for dinner and discussion with Matt Murphy and Coach Scott at LT360. Hello, gang. Hope everyone's well. It is the Matt Murphy. Sorry, I can't do that. Matt Murphy Radio Show, SuperTalk 99.7. WTN. I was mugging to the camera for those of you watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Thank you for participating in that manner. We're syncing up the chat feature so that I'll be able to chat with each of you as well. It's 106 on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, this Monday edition, talking Chinese balloons and transportation in the state of Tennessee right now.
Before you jump into that, that's a Night Stalker. It's a Kolchak hat, isn't it?
It's a what now?
Kolchak from Night Stalker.
I don't know Night Stalker.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, I shouldn't. You want me to?
The guy from Toy Story, the dad.
I know that.
He was in a show called The Night Stalker.
What?
Where he played a reporter and
Toy Story.
Yeah.
No.
The
animated?
No, the Christmas movie.
Christmas Story.
Yeah.
Darren McGavin. He played in a 70s show called Night Stalker. Oh, and he wore one of these hats?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. This is my. Hold on. I can't.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. I'll pull a picture for you.
I can't really wear it. Those of you watching on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch, you can see I'm probably causing a great deal of feedback right now because I have my headphones on, but around my neck. But this is my. I've had this hat for a while, but I don't know that I've ever worn it to the station. So there you go. Wore it just for you on the
Very
TV
retro.
side. Yeah, thanks. Anyway. Hour number 2 getting underway of the Murphy Show on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN, talking Chinese balloons. So here's the big question. What did Joe Biden know and when did he know it? What are the military personnel in charge of all of this, apparently, telling Joe Biden to do and not to do? And why is it that Joe Biden decided not to shoot this thing down previous to it getting over water? Because it is presenting quite the difficulty with regard to retrieving the information that we would like to retrieve. We need to know at this point what the Chinese know. Now, the Biden administration is saying something about, we were monitoring and we have counterintelligence and it's all good. I don't believe that for a second. Not for a second. And in the meantime, over the weekend, the liberals who understood that this was very much an egg on their face moment for Joe Biden and the Democrats, that they finally had a talking point. That was all about Trump. It always circles back to Trump. Trump. So I want to share with you a piece that I began, and I'll share it with you uninterrupted, or try to, till the end. It's about a minute and a half of Senator Marco Rubio, and Jonathan Karl of ABC News discussing what happened with the Chinese balloon, questions that Rubio has, legit questions that the Congress wants answered, and Jonathan Karl's gotcha toward the end. This is fun.
And he shot it down when he shot it down based on the advice of the military. You don't think he should have ordered it to be shot down earlier against the advice of the Joint Chiefs, do you?
Well, I think it first begins by understanding when did we first track it over airspace. Theoretically, if it entered to Alaska, NORAD, it's our system of spotting things and protecting both American and Canadian airspace, should have spotted it a lot earlier. So I'd love to hear from military officials about why wasn't it addressed earlier, what were the options at that point. Again, look, maybe in a closed session or maybe in the settings of with the benefit of hindsight, they'll have some real good arguments about why it couldn't be done. I recognize that you shoot something out of the sky that's the size of 3 buses and it lands in the wrong place, it could hurt, harm, kill people or damage infrastructure. But by the same token, I think that if that was the case, then I think it really would have been helpful for the President of the United States to get on national television and explain to the American people, this is what we're dealing with, this is what I'm going to do about it, and this is why I haven't done it yet. None of that happened, and I don't know why. And in fact, I don't know why they waited so long to tell people about this. And if they knew the trajectory that it was on, it seems from late last week.
All right, and we're also told, by the way, that that this happened 3 times under the previous president. Obviously, there were no public notifications there. Senator Rubio, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, so he pops that right at the end. Well, we were told that under the previous administration that this happened on multiple occasions. And there was no public notification there. As if that answers the question as to why we were not publicly notified under the Biden administration. Well, Jonathan Karl owes the audience at ABC This Week an apology. Don't expect it to be forthcoming. Information suggesting that Chinese spy balloons traveled over to the continental United States during the Trump administration was reportedly discovered after President Donald Trump left office, according to a senior administration official. A defense official said Saturday that Chinese spy balloons potentially briefly traveled over American airspace 3 times during the Trump administration. Donald Trump and a number of his top national security and defense officials have refuted this claim, telling Fox News Digital that this never happened. But on Sunday, a senior administration official told Fox Digital that, quote, U.S. intelligence, not the Biden administration, assesses that the People's Republic of China government surveillance balloons transited the continental U.S. briefly on 3 occasions during the prior administration and once that we knew of at the beginning of this administration, but never for this duration of time. The official told Fox News, quote, this information was discovered after the Trump administration left. They went undetected, the official told Fox News Digital. The official explained that Chinese surveillance balloons are part of a larger pattern. These balloons are a part of a fleet of balloons developed to conduct surveillance operations, which have violated the sovereignty of other countries numerous times, adding that these activities are often undertaken at the direction of the People's Liberation Army. The official said that over the past several years, Chinese balloons have been spotted over countries across 5 continents, including East Asia, South Asia, and Europe. So this begs a couple of questions. 1, did Jonathan Karl know this information when he tried to present it in a different fashion to Marco Rubio? He's playing like he is one of the Democrats in the Biden administration. This is a major part of many of the issues that I have with mainstream media. They've not only individually and selectively picked sides, they are advocating for their side in the manner in which they interview. Now, if you tell me you're a partisan, and I understand that you're partisan coming into an interview, that's one thing. I make no bones about being a partisan. I'm a libertarian with a small L. I come at every interview I do with that worldview. People know that. They know that this is an opinion-based show. Jonathan Karl pretends that he's simply presenting the news, man, when he knows that's not what he's doing. He knows full well that he's coming at this from a partisan viewpoint. And so there you go. So Jonathan Karl tried to play a little gotcha. Well, this happened 3 times during the Trump administration. Well, we're getting 2 conflicting reports. I just delivered one of them to you. Report 1 was that Donald Trump never knew, well, that no one knew that all of this went undetected. Both reports now state that Donald Trump had never had any awareness of these Chinese balloons flying over American airspace at any point during his presidency. One report says, well, we didn't know. The second report is more damning, and this is what I want to focus on. The second report indicated that military officials were aware of the existence of the Chinese balloon spying in American airspace during the Trump administration, and they chose independently not to tell the President of the United States about it. I want to allow that to sink in for you just a moment. Understand the gravity of that statement. Our country, the very fabric of our country, was designed from its beginning to ensure that our United States military is run by a civilian. That our nation has a civilian as the head of our military branches of service. It is why the President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief. It is why any President of the United States cannot serve in any dual capacity. In other words, General George Washington had to resign as General George Washington prior to becoming President George Washington, and Andrew Jackson, and Ulysses S. Grant, and Dwight D. Eisenhower, and on it goes. There was a reason for that. There is a reason for that. Because we have an understanding that when coups d'etats occur, oftentimes they occur through our military services, to the point that the overtaking of a duly elected government is done so through or by the military itself. This is to help prevent that sort of thing. Secondarily, it gives the American public a more direct say into what our military does and does not do. At least that's the design. It hasn't worked lately, by the way. Do you understand how dangerous that it would be if this admission is true? Something that Jonathan Karl and others in the mainstream media, in an effort to, quote-unquote, play gotcha politics with Marco Rubio and other Republicans asking legitimate questions about this spy balloon, they're playing gotcha. Well, this happened under Trump. It happened under Donald Trump. Well, wait a minute. Donald Trump says he didn't know anything about it. Well, they didn't say anything to him. What? Remember when General Milley, isn't that his name? Doing this out of memory. Said that he would not tell, that he would tell the Chinese, he would warn them.
General Milley.
It was General Milley. Said that he would warn the Chinese prior to any action on the part of Donald Trump, the President of the United States, and his Commander-in-Chief. And at the time, we scratched our heads and thought, my God, that's treason. Well, if this is true, they were actively keeping, I don't care what they think of Donald Trump. I don't care what you think of Donald Trump. Donald Trump was elected President of the United States of America. Donald Trump gets access to this information, whether you think he deserves it or not. It's not up to you. The American voter already decided it. Or don't you believe in democracy anymore, or a representative republic anymore? Jerry's been holding in Greenbrier about the balloon, and Jerry, we will get to you. I don't know why my phone's not working in here. Bell, I cannot control anything going on there, but hit Jerry if you can, and let's get him on air. Hey, Jerry, how are you?
Hi, it's Gary. How you doing? I'm doing fine.
I'm just screwing everything up. I can't get you on the air. I can't pronounce your name correctly. Gary, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing fine. Listen, it's pretty disturbing if, in fact, this has been going on during the Trump administration, because it is total treason. I'm a retired military officer. I can't even believe we have general officers doing this stuff. But I can say this. I've been out for almost 3 decades. I have an electronic warfare background, signal background, and I know way back when I had high enough clearance, the Chinese were really on top of their game in signal communications. If I were to quantum leap to now, they must have one awesome communications capability. And of course, over the decades, they've had their students in our technical universities and colleges for the longest time. And there's a lot of engineering theft going on. But imagine if I just put this in layman's terms now. I believe very strongly that a control device that they had over our country, from the Aleutians all the way down through part of Canada and then Montana, and over all these very sensitive sites having to do with ICBMs and our capability to defend this country from EMP or anything of that nature, this thing was equivalent to a siphon. Just like if you were to siphon water out of an aquarium. And what it did, it was siphoning the ether, the electronic world. There's communications going right through your building right now from all over the world. Every language, every culture right now. The ability to siphon and filter what you need was going on that entire time. And so it was live stream.
Gary, I admit I got distracted a moment ago, and I'm a little bit confused about what we're talking about. I mean, you're saying this balloon was a siphon for ether? What?
Yes. Ether is the electronic world around us, what you can't see. It's called in signal communications the ether. Mm-hmm. It's just the world around you. So it was just sucking up information as it went across the country. In other words, absolutely. Now, there's
I believe that. Yeah.
2 ways.
I thought you meant ether like huff. I thought, yeah. I was thinking a different kind of ether.
No,
my bad.
Not the old ether. No. So this siphoning capability, which was controlled and maneuvered deliberately, may have been testing our systems, our countermeasures, or whatever it was doing. We've been compromised all over, even in the military. There's no doubt in my mind. So it was a well-coordinated effort. I don't know necessarily it was a thumb in the eye or a finger in the eye. They know they can get away with it. That's for sure. I mean, if anyone believes that the White House and a number of people aren't bought by the Chinese, they need to get off of that dope or whatever they're on, because they are bought.
Well, they're certainly compromised in some way.
They're severely compromised. But that thing was definitely siphoning data, information, and they were testing our response. Maybe we went totally dead, so they couldn't do it, and went all the way across the country for nothing. Don't know. But why even let it do it? It could have been shot down before it got to the illusion.
Well, one would, and you're right, one would presume, and I've got to run, Gary. I appreciate the call today. Yeah. I can't cut him off, Bell. You have to do that. I don't know why, but certainly one would presume we had awareness of this as soon as it entered American airspace, and due to that awareness, that we could have done something sooner. 122 on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Back after this. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. Let's talk for a moment about your home, your person, and how you defend yourself. Now, I'm going to apply this to your workplace in just a moment. You protect your home. Perhaps you own firearms and are a believer in the Second Amendment. Perhaps you put locks on the front doors, and you make sure that you have an action plan in the event that something negative happens within your home. Are you not doing the same thing with your workplace? Are you doing it with your school? Or your child's school? Are you doing it with your church? Well, if you're a decision maker in any of these locations or any place that people gather, I encourage you to contact Brink Fiddler and Defend Systems and allow him to come and give a complete on-site analysis of your surroundings and then train your workforce. That's what it's all about, is making sure that in the unfortunate and unlikely experience that you have workplace violence somewhere in your workplace or, God forbid, an active shooter situation, that you understand what to do and what not to do. That's what Brink Fiddler is all about, giving you that direct line of communication so you understand your action plan before anything should happen. Brink hopes nothing ever happens to you or your coworkers, but hope is not a plan. It is time to get trained. DefendSystems.com for more information. DefendSystems.com, and tell Brink Fiddler that Matt Murphy sent you. That is Bel K's version of a love song, 127, SuperTalk 99.7, WTN. I forget, you're a fan of Taylor Swift, right?
Oh, God, yes.
That's what I thought. You're also a fan of AOC, though, so I don't...
No. I'm a fan of the way AOC looks. Once she opens her mouth, it kills it.
Uh-huh. I'm supposed to do this. When you talk, Bell, we're supposed to go to Murphy and Bell. That's what we're supposed to do. No. You're not Governor Bill Lee. There you go. Do it the right way. You can put your hand over your face. I don't care what you do. Do it the right way. By the way, the new TN Talk TV aficionado has just entered the room. You might want to ask him the question that we had earlier about whether we could get this off my, ask him that question. While they do that, we do this. Steve in Columbia, once again, as the TV part gets underway, the other part is falling apart. Hit line 3 for me. I don't know why I can't. I bet it's because I'm on talent mode, not host mode or whatever. Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm well. You?
I'm doing great. What's on your mind with this Chinese balloon? Talk to me.
Well, it's obvious that the whole bullshit about, we don't want to hurt anybody.
Kill him and kill him and kill him. Okay. Let me explain. Steve, I don't know where you're coming from. I don't know. Here's the bottom line. You ought to know better than say nasty language on the radio. And if you don't know any better, all I can do is hang up on you and tell you not to call me anymore. Because that's kind of absurd. Steve, there's a lot of times that I would like to say dirty words on the radio and they won't let me either. So I'm not judging you, but I'm telling you, you ought to know better than that.
Yeah, we have to save them all for off air.
That's right. So, yes, I would like to call this Bravo Sierra as well. But I don't get to, and you don't get to. And when you cuss on the radio like that, you have to be let go. So, there you go. How about Steven in Tennessee? Thank you. Hey, I got my thank you. Chris Webber saved me. Not that Belkay couldn't have, but Chris Webber was available. Hey, Steven, how are you? Hello, Steven. Steven.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you great.
Okay. Yeah, hey, I just wanted to comment on the balloon thing and just say congratulations, you guys, getting on YouTube and everything. Watch a lot of YouTube, and, don't forget to remind everybody to subscribe, like, and share so you guys can get some more viewers. And, as you guys improve as the days go along, hopefully we can rise up and reach way up there in the charts,
Hey, and maybe, Stephen, cool, I can, one of these days, if we get popular enough, Matt Murphy can get a makeover. What do you think?
Yeah, or just get green screen and then just, make yourself look however you want to.
I dig it, my friend. What's on your mind about this balloon? What do you think?
So, a couple things here. I mean, this should have been shot down right when it was starting to reach the coast of Alaska, actually. I'm sure our military, we had to know about this. Somebody talked to somebody who found Sleepy Joe in the basement, and he didn't. He was taking a good 3-day nap, and I'm with the guy in Congress who's asking the questions about Rubio, who says how come you haven't even came out and let us know anything about this? But, this has never happened before. I don't remember ever hearing anything about this. This is definitely some kind of surveillance issue. But the question is, I mean, what are they doing? Somebody in China has to answer for this. They have to have some kind of explanation about, what are you doing? What are you doing here? What's going on?
Well, and under a presidency not compromised, and thank you, Stephen, for the call, unlike this presidency, someone would demand answers. But this president is obviously compromised by the Red Chinese in a variety of different ways. I think he has a natural predisposition to like communist China based on where they're trying to take the Democrat Party into a socialist state and really the United States of America. But more presently, what we are discovering is that the Biden administration has obviously been compromised over the years with regard to the business entanglements involving Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, and Jack. Is that his uncle? Jack? I think that's right. Begins with a J. Yeah, I think it's Jack. Jack, jerk, corn pop. He was a bad dude. Yeah, so there's obvious entanglements going on that I believe have created that dynamic by which Joe Biden is not going to go after the Red Chinese about anything. Jim, Wendy says. Thank you. I knew it was a J, Wendy. Thank you. Yes, unless our American military technology and surveillance abilities is woefully inadequate for its purpose. Our military knew this balloon was coming prior to it entering Alaskan airspace. Yet the American people were not aware of it until Montana. Why? Good question. 133. It's a question we'll continue to endeavor to answer. Secondarily, there are whales coming up on beaches, just beaching themselves on beaches around the world. Why? No one's asking this question, why? And we have the State of the State later on today and the State of the Union later on this week. We'll discuss those things as we continue. It's the Matt Murphy Show on radio and television on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. All right, so let's talk about your energy level. Gentlemen, I know it's a personal matter when we talk about the bedroom or your energy in the backyard or wherever it might be, but the fact of the matter is if your energy level is going down and you've not had your testosterone checked, do yourself a favor and get this thing checked. Now, the originators of men's-only therapy, especially for your testosterone levels, is Tennessee Men's Clinic. It's the one I recommend. Tennessee Men's Clinic, located right in the heart of Middle Tennessee, right in the heart of Nashville as well. They can help you with a simple telephone call. You can schedule an appointment today. You can get information over the phone. It's no obligation to you. When you go in, for less than $100, they're going to give you a complete workup of your blood sample. They'll take some blood from you, and then they'll find out where your testosterone level is, where your PSA level is, other things, other matters that might affect energy, and then they go to work making sure that they get it corrected. If it's testosterone, they'll tell you. If it's not, they'll tell you that too, and you can check that off your list. Tennessee Men's Clinic, online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com or on the phone, 615-208-9090, 208-9090. It's Tennessee Men's Clinic. It is SuperTalk 99.7 WTN 138. Matt Murphy and you until 3 o'clock. The Drive with Brian Wilson at that time. Thank you for being a part of the show, and thank you for making us a part of your day. Whatever time you're able to give us, I am appreciative of that. 615-737-9986. That's our telephone number. We'd love to hear from you. We would love to super text with you, or you can join us on our various platforms of WTN TV. I'm on there. For better or worse or indifferent, we're on there. Get us back on there, by the way, Bill. Sorry. Thank you. No, not Mandis. No, you wouldn't want to do that. Is he flying today? Is that tomorrow? I think it's tomorrow.
When's the
It's tomorrow night. I think Mandis is. I need to I'm thinking of clawing back on the Murphy Show question of the day and utilizing super text, because we did this for a minute when I first got here, and it was because I was so new. It was my new to Nashville question of the day, and you longtime listeners will remember that. I was trying to learn more as much as I possibly could about Nashville, Tennessee. Now I think I'm thinking about bringing it back and it being more of a topical thing, just asking, an open-ended question of you, the listening audience, and you can answer on the various platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, super text line, or on the phone lines. And my thought was to ask you, do you think this is a good idea? What happens if Joe Biden gets wind of Dan Mandis being in the listening audience of the State of the Union address? That can't go well. Can Dan Mandis pass I passed a background check. If I passed a background check, Dan Mandis can pass a background check. For those who have not heard, Dan Mandis of Nashville's Morning News will be in attendance during Joe Biden's State of the Union address. Here's what I would say. I was given the opportunity to go in 2016. Obviously, I had no interest in listening to Barack Obama's final State of the Union address, but I was not about to pass up a moment in American history, and that's what it is. Have I told you the story, Bill, that I sat like 6 people down from Michael Keaton?
Yes.
And everyone asks me, oh, did you get a selfie with Michael Keaton? No, they don't let you take your cell phone in to the gallery of the House chamber on the Capitol property, and you have to go through like 4 different metal detectors. I went through 4 different metal checkpoints getting into the gallery to watch.
Well, that was pretty smart on somebody's part, because with government's track record, the first 3 ain't going to work.
Well, that's true. You go through a variety of background checks, et cetera, and then eventually you get in and you sit down and you sit there for 4 hours. I mean, literally 4 hours prior to the president arriving. A couple of things that I would note for those who have never been to the House of Representatives of the Capitol. 1, please go. You get to go into the gallery when they're not in session. I think you can actually go into the gallery when they're in session, or at least you used to could. There was a time when you could prior to January 6th of 2021. I don't know if they've changed the rules.
When they were voting for speaker, the gallery was like...
Was it full?
Yeah, it was a lot of
Okay, so
people
maybe
up there.
Kevin McCarthy has loosened some of the rules instituted by Nancy Pelosi, but you can go into the I mean, obviously, it's the people's house. You get to watch the sausage made. Now, they're not going to allow you to go in there without going through some sort of security to make sure that you don't have bad things on your person. Puerto Rican nationals did that in the 1950s, and they shot up the place. I saw Congressman Mo Brooks and Congressman Gary Palmer, both of Alabama, at various times took me to the floor, and the desk that was shot, it is a desk where the people take notes. The House of Representatives chamber does not have, like, individual desks for the membership. But there are several desks where people get up to give speeches. They now have podiums in the front, too, but these old desks have been there forever, and the desks still have bullet holes in them from where the Puerto Rican nationals began shooting down at the congressman from the gallery in the 1950s.
I have never heard this story.
You've never heard this?
I had no clue this had occurred.
And now you know why it is so insulting when current members of Congress claim that the biggest assault in American history in our nation's capital was the assault on January 6th. We had people who were shot. I'll look up the date. It was like 1953, I want to think. There was no security moving into the Capitol at that time, and Puerto Rican nationals came in and they shot up the place.
Was anybody killed?
I can't remember.
Were any House members injured?
Shot, yeah.
Wow.
I'll look up the details.
Were the Puerto Rican Nationals fans of Bernie?
Probably. Was Bernie there then? Could have been.
Joe probably was too. So when you're waiting for the State of the Union to start, if you got to go to the little boys' room, can you get up and?
Nope.
So you got to sit there for 4 hours and, wow.
I did not. I don't know if there's a mechanism by which you can go to the bathroom. But I didn't. But we went through, I met Congressman Mo Brooks invited me, and I met him at his office. Then he and I walked underneath the Capitol complex through the tunnel, and I went through one checkpoint during our walk through the tunnel. And then when I got to the Capitol, he veered off on his way, which he was allowed to do because he was a member of the House of Congress, and I had to go my way. And that's when I went through 3 separate checkpoints at that time. I don't know that there was a way to go to the bathroom without having to get re-wanded and rechecked. But, yeah, you waited. That's the way that they do it to keep it a secure environment, which makes sense. Everyone gets in place, including – they stage it. All of the audience has to get there. Everyone in the gallery has to get there. Then the House of Representatives members and the senators get there. Then the United States Supreme Court members in attendance get there. Then the president's cabinet gets there. And only after everyone has been seated and fully accounted for, members of the press and whatnot, does the president pull up and he arrive. And so they've locked everything down prior to the president ever getting there. I was a year off, Bell. 1954 United States Capitol shooting was an attack on March 1st of 1954 by 4 Puerto Rican nationalists who sought to promote the cause of Puerto Rican independence from U.S. rule. They fired 30 separate rounds from a semi-automatic pistol into the legislative floor of the body from the ladies' gallery, which is a balcony for visitors. Obviously, it's the balcony used by visitors watching the State of the Union address. The nationalists, identified as Lolita Lebron, Rafael Cancel Miranda, Hernandez Cordero, and Irvin Rodriguez, unfurled a Puerto Rican flag and began shooting at representatives in the 83rd Congress who were debating an immigration bill. 5 representatives were wounded, 1 seriously, all recovered. The assailants arrested, tried, convicted in federal court, and all were given long sentences amounting to life imprisonment. In 1978 and 79, their sentences were commuted by President Jimmy Carter. All 4 returned to Puerto Rico. I wonder if that was a scandal on talk radio back in 78, 79.
Was there talk radio back then?
I don't think so, which is why I asked. I mean, why the hell did Jimmy Carter commute their sentences? So this is the reason that it's so upsetting when idiots like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is of Puerto Rican heritage, claims that the biggest assault on the United States Capitol occurred on January 6th, when it obviously was not, as just described by me. All right, 615-737-9986. So much action on the balloon. Jeff is in Indiana. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Hey, Matt. Why don't we just state the obvious? Joe Biden is the Manchurian candidate. I mean, it's pretty obvious because, who else would have let this balloon go all the way across the United States, collecting information, and then shoot it down, destroying all the evidence, basically? Think of the open borders. If you were trying to destroy the United States without firing a shot, what would you do different than Joe Biden's doing right now?
Well, he certainly hasn't performed as they would want you to believe, and it's one of the reasons that I don't have any plans on watching the State of the Union tomorrow, because I believe it's a lot of fluff and nonsense. Obviously, Joe Biden is compromised on numerous levels financially, to include financially, with the Chinese. I don't know to what level that goes. If Joe Biden is the Manchurian candidate, that means there's someone pulling the strings in the background. Who do you believe that is? I mean, conventional wisdom dictates, Jeff, that we're talking about, the likes of John Podesta, Susan Rice would be in the advisory council, Valerie Jarrett, Barack Obama, and George Soros. Are those the usual suspects for you as well?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Joe Biden barely knows what planet he's on. I mean, they got to escort him on and off stage and everything. But basically, I hate to say it sounds imperialistic and everything, but the majority of American electorate have not got enough intelligence to self-govern. And I know that sounds bad, but it's absolutely true.
Well, we've reached a point. We've reached a point of apathy. If you know or understand or have ever read anything about Andrew Tytler and his cycle of democracy, look it up. No, I'm sorry, not Andrew. Alexander Tytler and the cycle of democracy. We are certainly well within the apathetic stage in the cycle of democracy, and the potential is that we're going to cycle back around to totalitarian state before you know it, and you naturally have to have bloodshed in the aftermath of a totalitarian state in order to achieve freedom again. Alexander Tytler would tell you that that is the natural cycle of things. Sadly, I agree with him. People become flush with cash. They become fruitful. They become complacent. And once complacency sets in, that's replaced by apathy with regard to government. That begins a process by which non-performers begin voting themselves from the largesse of government. And when this happens, we lose. We lose the democratic process as designed by our founding fathers. 150 on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Well, hello, friends. My lower back feels better than it has in years. My upper back is completely solved. I won't say healed necessarily because, nobody put healing hands on me, but I'll tell you what they did do at the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. This is a true story, folks. I got there, and Dr. Wendy gave me the treatment. And by the way, your treatment, $23. You schedule an appointment, and for $23, you come in, you meet with Dr. Wendy, Dr. D, Dr. V, or one of the team at the Dr. Gill Center. They go over exactly what they do from a chiropractic standpoint, from a decompression standpoint, the modern techniques and technologies they have at the Dr. Gill Center. Then one of the team, they're going to give you some x-rays. They're going to look over those x-rays based on where you told them it hurts. I was telling Dr. Wendy that I had radiating pain out in my shoulders. She understood where that came from. And she checked it out and found a compression in my upper neck that we had therapy on, and now my shoulders don't hurt anymore. Thank you to Dr. Wendy and the Dr. Gill Center. They can do it for you as well. For $23, schedule the appointment today. You'll be happy that you did. 794-0800. 794-0800. Tell them Matt Murphy told you to call the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. 157 SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. It's my fault, really. I blame myself. Obviously, it's called the Matt Murphy Show, so I'm responsible for the goings-on between noon and 3 on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. I take full responsibility for what's happening in our bumper selections. You see, early on in the show, I casually mentioned to Bel K that this is our last full week before we celebrate the day for lovers, known as Valentine's Day. It's really the day for the greeting card companies, but whatever.
That is Pantera, This Love.
And so I said, Belle, we should play some love songs.
What This Love?
And then this is what I got for my trouble. What is that called? Pantera?
The band is Pantera. The song is called This Love.
Hey, have you heard the collaboration that Dolly Parton did with Slipknot? Have you heard that?
No, I texted you that.
Have you heard that?
No.
It's great stuff. It's not true, but it's great stuff.
Was I the first person to send you that?
No.
Oh. I'm going to stop texting you later.
No, please do. I like it. Yes, there was an internet rumor going around. If you don't know the band Slipknot, don't look them up. I'm telling you not to look them up. I told you guys not to look in the bathroom when the bathroom had been destroyed. Now I'm telling you, don't look up Slipknot.
Slipknot's awesome.
See what I'm talking about there? Slipknot's awesome. Hey, look who's back in the news booth. Look, it's my first opportunity to use the 3-shot, everybody.
Yeah. Come on.
What's going on?
What is going on, Matt?
Wait,
How are you?
Bell?
He just went away.
Bell. We need the 3-shot, man.
He didn't want the power T in there.
I need my 3-shot, Bell. Don't. What do you?
There we go.
Can you give me the 3-shot back if you're going to do that? Thank you, man. Thank you, Mac. Hey, how's it going, Mac?
Hey, there's that power T.
How did you enjoy? By the way, while you're here, Maury.
Yeah.
How did you? Did you watch any of the Pro Bowl festivities yesterday?
Very little. Very little.
These two things are going to sound like they can't coexist, like they're mutually exclusive. But I'm telling you, you're such a jerk. I'm sorry, I got distracted. Have you looked? He's such a jerk. You're such a jerk. You're not supposed to touch that camera. I think it's a better way to do the Pro Bowl thing if you're going to do the Pro Bowl thing, but yes. I watched like 10 minutes of it. I mean, so it's counterintuitive, but I'll explain in the last hour of the show. We'll get to more of your calls. We're going to talk about the State of the State address. We're going to talk about whales on beaches, Donald Trump Boulevard in Nashville, Tennessee. It's all to come on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
It is 2 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 63 degrees and sunny in Nashville. A beautiful day right now in the mid-state. Weather and traffic coming up just a few minutes. Starting with the Chinese balloon. Recovery efforts are underway off the coast of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for the payload of a Chinese balloon that U.S. military officials shot down over the weekend. The balloon was hovering over the continental U.S. for days. Officials say they wanted to wait until it was over water so that the debris wouldn't rain down on people in the ground. General Glenn Van Herk is the commander of U.S. Northern Command and the North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, and says that most of the debris has been collected.
There was debris that's expanded out further. We have collected the majority of that debris that fell in the ocean and other places. Now what we're talking about is really that superstructure below that fell down.
Chinese officials say the balloon was a weather balloon, but U.S. officials deny that and say it was likely a spy balloon. As for the size of this balloon, it was up to 200 feet tall for the actual balloon. The payload itself, they'd categorize it as a jetliner type of size, maybe a regional jet such as a ERJ or something like that. And they say officials are saying it probably weighed in excess of a couple of 1,000 pounds. And New York, a report issued today, found dozens of city police officers there in New York violated department rules during protests over the death of George Floyd. Here's Aaron Katersky.
Protests raged for days here in New York after George Floyd was murdered by police in Minneapolis, and the Civilian Complaint Review Board found during those protests 146 police officers violated NYPD rules, everything from excessive force to discourtesy and offensive language. The CCRB said there were hundreds more allegations that could not be investigated because the officers took steps to conceal their identity or they refused to be interviewed. The NYPD said the report failed to acknowledge the 22,000 officers addressing rioting, chaos, violence, and destruction.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is hard to find someone that you can trust when it comes to large home repairs. This includes your heating and your cooling. It is why I have a name for you. I have a company name for you. I have a telephone number for you, and I'm going to deliver all of them in 60 seconds. It is the name, Jeff Eddy. The name of the company, Efficient Heating and Cooling. Why? Because you can trust the man. It's just as simple as that. I mean, obviously, he's a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric, an elite pro partner with Rheem. He understands heating. He understands air conditioning, has been doing it for years. But the first conversation that I had with Jeff Eddy, he was talking about another company, which will go unnamed, that were taking advantage of a 90-year-old man installing a 30-year unit when they knew very well the expense of that would never get paid off in terms of his life expectancy. That's not the way to do business. And Jeff Eddy knows it. He's going to treat you like family. He's going to do business the right way by you. He's going to fix what ails your heater. And if he cannot fix it, he will tell you up front that is the case, and he'll tell you exactly what it's going to cost to get you back up and running again. That's the way that you should do business. That's the way I do business, and it's why I love Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Call him today at 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or efficienthvac.net. That's efficienthvac.net. Here we are, and here we go. It is 2:06. Good afternoon, and welcome back as the Matt Murphy Show gets underway for hour number 3. We're pleased you've decided to join us on this Monday edition, February the 6th. We've got Valentine's Day coming up a week and a day from now. We're celebrating by Bel K playing all of the nasty love songs that he can find. And I say nasty love songs, meaning the anti-love songs that he can find. I don't know that he can find a week's worth. We'll find out together. In the meantime, looky there, Bell. Based on your insistence, you see some activity going on the SuperTalk TV over there?
No, I'm actually working on setting up I'm doing some behind-the-scenes stuff.
Are you doing this?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you had employed the services of Chris Webber or Mac Morey to do this for you.
Trying to.
So you're setting up a Murphy and newsroom shot that excludes the studio, the control area.
Maybe.
Is that what you're doing? Well, someone's doing something that's entitled Murphy and News Booth.
Okay.
And then there's something called Murphy and Zoom. What does that mean?
That's for when we have guests that come in over video.
Yeah.
Be perfect.
Oh, wow. Oh, I'm glad other people behind the scenes are actually doing some of this stuff. How about that? I thought maybe you'd figured out how to get it so away from my face.
No, I talked to
close.
Chris about it, and he said apparently you have to move the camera physically.
Well, see, there's
told not to.
Yeah, because Ian has said different. Ian has said that we have. So there's a. Well,
I'll talk to Ian. We'll figure it out.
No, we're a baby. We were born. Now we're crawling a little bit. But Ian claims that there's a way to do it, and I don't know.
Ian's the IT guy, so
unless I misheard Ian, I don't know.
Okay, we'll find out.
It could be all on me. We'll figure it out, and we'll get it up and running. If you are so inclined, you can go and watch us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Those are the 4 locations where we are currently on WTN TV. Before I get too far away from it, I mentioned a quote, and I want to read the exact quote. It's from Alexander Tytler, Tytler. Now, I've heard it pronounced Titler, and I've heard it pronounced Tytler, and I'm going Tytler. And here's the quote. I don't know a lot about Alexander Tytler other than this quote. I was made aware of it 20 years ago in my early days of doing this job, and I'll tell you, it is a quote that rings more true today than ever before. It involves human beings and our yearning and desire to be free against a balance of what that freedom becomes, what it entails, and how it changes the populace over time. Here's the quote. A democracy cannot exist as a permanent form of government. Now, before we go any further, Alexander Tytler understood, as I understand, and I don't want to get into big, grand arguments about this, but we live in a democracy. There are 2 major forms of democracy. One is virtually non-existent, and the other is our form of democracy. It's called direct and indirect democracy. Indirect democracy would constitute constitutional republic, constitutional monarchies. These are types of indirect. We are in a representative constitutional republic, which is a form of an indirect democracy, meaning eligible individuals vote on representatives who will then, by extension, vote in accordance with the desires of their constituencies, or in some cases, they will vote their conscience in what they believe will be in the best interest of their constituencies. An indirect democracy, rather I should say the opposite way. A representative republic is a form of an indirect democracy. The reason that so many people get frustrated when we say, we're not a democracy, Matt, and I've heard it a million times, is because primarily you're thinking of the other type of democracy, which is a direct democracy. There isn't an example currently in existence of a direct democracy, because direct democracy would constitute that every eligible voting citizen vote on every matter coming before the government of that given country. It's a very ineffective way to run a railroad, and it was discovered pretty early on that was the case. Think ancient Greece when you think direct democracy, even though they never had an actual direct democracy. All that to say, I don't want you to get caught up in Alexander Tytler's use of the word democracy, because per his definition and per my definition, we exist under an indirect form of democracy. Once again, I'm not interested in fighting with you about it. I just try to explain it. And I understand why so many people get heartburn. We're not a democracy. And a lot of that's been politicized because the Democrats call themselves Democrats and they focus on democracy so much, when what they really mean is mob rule. We wouldn't want to live under a democracy, because a democracy, well, the best example has always been democracy would be 2 wolves and a sheep all voting for what's for dinner. There is no mechanism by which members in the minority, in this case, the sheep, get a say. In a constitutional republic, which is a form of an indirect democracy, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and individuals elect representatives to go and vote on various laws that might have an impact or an effect on how the Constitution operates. Okay? So I just want to say that up front. Now back to the quote. Alexander Tytler, or Tytler. A democracy cannot exist as a permanent form of government. It can only exist until the voters discover that they can vote themselves largesse from the public treasury. From that moment on, the majority always votes for the candidates promising the most benefits from the public treasury, with the result that the democracy always collapses over loose fiscal policy, always followed by a dictatorship. The average age of the world's greatest civilizations has been 200 years. These nations have progressed through this sequence. From bondage to spiritual faith, from spiritual faith to great courage, from courage to liberty, from liberty to abundance, from abundance to selfishness, from selfishness to apathy, from apathy to dependence, from dependence back into bondage. Alexander Tytler. Where do you believe, if you agree with me, that that spectrum is accurate? Where do you believe that we are currently in this process? From bondage to spiritual faith, from faith to courage, from courage to liberty. That was the American Revolution, folks, for many of us. For some, it took the United States Civil War in order to achieve an outcome that would resemble this sequence. I'm obviously talking about Africans who were brought to this country to serve as slaves. Eventually, they were granted their citizenship in the aftermath of the American Civil War. So their timeline would be slightly different than the European settlers. From liberty to abundance, we enjoyed abundance for quite a length of time in the United States of America. From abundance to selfishness, from selfishness to apathy. From apathy to dependence. That's where we are. We are apathetic and on our way to dependence. From dependence back into bondage. And note that in the course of all of this, we lose our spiritual faith as we gain more and more, as we become more and more apathetic, and we create the dynamic by which we are more and more dependent on what? On government itself. That's the quote we referenced last hour, and several of you wanted me to focus on it a little more in the final hour of the show, and so we do so. That is Alexander Tytler. You can read more about that at your own leisure. So liberal Democrats in Nashville, Tennessee, in the General Assembly, they are freaking out. I mean, hey, my feed is blowing up with people telling me that we're black on Facebook. I imagine it's because you're working on it right now. Is that right?
I think we're now off of black, but we were for a while, yes, and now we're back.
Oh, thank you, Mac. You're picking me up because you saw that old Bell was working hard. He's trying to, this is a work in progress. We're walking, we're crawling, or whatever, but he's trying to get a shot that has it a little less close to the host, and I think that's important. Yeah. Because while people were very accepting, Mac, of me that close up last week. They saw me, my big face, right up there in the grills. They were very, very accepting of that. But this morning, there was an extreme backlash when Dan Mandis was that close up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can understand that. So there it is. And look at Matt. Look how good you look. Is this your first time on camera?
Stop. I'm blushing.
Oh, look at you with your tea over there. So you went a little away from the Chiefs gear this week? Is that what we're doing? Or are we trying to build up to it?
Power tee. I had a long sleeve Chiefs shirt on before I left for my break, and then I changed. But I still have it here. I might go back to the red. We'll see.
Didn't the Volunteers win this weekend in their basketball game? Didn't they?
Yeah, did a controversial no call at the end of the game against
over
Auburn.
Auburn. This is what Erica was beside herself. So she's become a basketball fan now that Bruce Pearl has gone down to the Plains, right?
Yeah.
And he's done very well for Auburn. I think he got him to a Final Four or whatever.
Yep.
And, she was screaming from the other room, Mac Morey.
Well, I got to say she's correct, even as a Tennessee fan. That should have been called. I don't care if there was bad no calls before against Tennessee. That should have been called. It should have had a chance to go to overtime. That was a foul.
There you go. But both of those squads are getting into the NCAA tournament,
yes.
right?
Oh, yes.
And see, this is why I don't get into basketball I don't get into basketball on the NBA level. And it's hard for me in college because I was like, y'all work it out. It's like it's a big, long preseason.
Yeah.
Until we get to the tournament.
Let me know. Yeah, let me know when you guys are at in March.
Yeah, let me know when you figure out which 64 teams are good enough to win the championship, and then I'll fill out my bracket and I'll have a rooting interest.
We got to have a little SuperTalk bracket here.
Oh, yeah.
That's got to happen, man.
Come on.
That'll be fun.
It's actually, I've discovered the only way that I watch basketball is if I have that bracket, which immediately creates interest.
Of course.
And so you create these little Cinderella scenarios where, I don't know who, but, they're going all the way to the Final Four, and then you're rooting for that team suddenly. Suddenly I'm a huge, Butler fan.
Yeah. You know their players, you know the backstory. You're like, yeah, this guy only started playing basketball when he was 16. You didn't. You're like, wait, what? You don't know anything,
right? And you're saying that to a guy at a bar like you learned that. You found that out 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right. All right. So, thank you, Mac Morey, for your support of your team there, and thank you for spending a little time with me on the on Talk TV. I feel very lonely because Belle won't be a part of it with us.
No,
we'll work it out.
The viewers are missing out.
That's right. I mean, where can you see hair like that? When you're not watching a drag show.
Or a Slipknot concert.
All right, so back real quick while I've got you, Maury, on the I know it sounds kind of like an oxymoron for me to say this. I didn't watch a lot of the Pro Bowl thing.
Yeah.
But this is much better, right? Stop pretending like what you were trying to do was play a football game and do something different. And I like that they tried to do a flag football thing.
Yeah.
I
get
get
fun.
that.
Just own it. Own it. We're not playing real football.
No, but here's what I hate about it. It don't squash it in the middle of the championship weekend and Super Bowl weekend. Right?
Yes.
Now, this year that works for you, right?
Of course, for me, yeah.
Yeah, because, my homie has a chance to heal up.
Yes. A bye week's great.
But otherwise, just championship, let's get to the Super Bowl, let's get it done. And I think that'll work itself out once they demand an 18th game. Don't you think
that's going to happen? 2 bye weeks and an 18th game are going to happen. Yes. Soon the NFL season's going to be.
And then, what you could do is, my suggestion was, do we really need, college doesn't do preseason games. Do we really need preseason?
That's eventually, we're getting there too. We're down to, what was it? We're down to 2 now or 3? I can't remember.
It's 3.
We're down to 3. We're going to get down to 2. Eventually we'll get down to, it's just, we got a lot of things. In 10 years we won't have a kickoff. There won't be kickoff returns soon. Well, that'll all be gone.
No kickoff returns,
no
you think?
Yeah, I think they'll eventually get rid of that too.
Yeah, it's changing before our eyes.
Yeah.
So I vote we just go ahead. Let's send it up to whomever needs, Goodell?
Yeah, Roger. Yeah.
Yeah, Raj, come here. Mac and I have this figured out. Just eliminate the preseason, add an additional game, and 2 buys, no break between the championships and the Super Bowl, and we're done.
That's it.
And there, you got your 18 games. Nobody's playing anymore, and there you go. All right. Now that we've solved that, let's move on to other things. The State of the State address is this evening at 6 o'clock. You'll hear that live on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. It's my understanding Brian Wilson will be live from the General Assembly in some form or fashion, or the Capitol in some form or fashion, starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. We've got the State of the Union address coming tomorrow. Dan Mandis will be in attendance in that. He's not coming today, or he's not going today. I thought he was, or I was going to try to hit him up. So we'll talk about some of the activities of the state and the activities of the union and what we can anticipate. I have an admission regarding the State of the Union. I will be listening with rapt attention to the State of the State tonight. I appreciate Governor Bill Lee. I understand some of you have some consternation about his leadership through COVID, but my experience is he's been a forthright guy and a good leader for the state of Tennessee. That is my experience. And if it's not yours, that doesn't mean we're enemies. It means I'm new here. But I will not be watching the State of the Union. I'll tell you why next. It's 2:22 on SuperTalk. Hey, folks, it's Matt Murphy. Let's talk for a moment about my financial guy, and I want him to be yours, Paul Winkler. When I first got to Nashville, I asked around, and I asked who the best financial partner would be for me and my family, and the name Paul Winkler came up time and time and time again. Then Paul and I sat down, and we sat for about an hour and a half talking about financial issues, and he educated me on so much in that hour and a half that I knew that he was my guy. He was my guy when it came to financial planning, but I also knew that I wanted to tell all of you about him as well. So I am now not just a client, I'm a paid endorser, and I love it that I'm a paid endorser because I'm incentivized to say nice things about him, but the fact of the matter is I wouldn't have to be incentivized because of his message. It is all about education. It is all about relative loss and making sure that you don't fall into that vacuum of relative loss, meaning you don't really know that you're losing money because you don't see the money that you could be earning if investing it the most wise and proper fashion. Paul Winkler can explain all of this. Now, there are 10 separate offices to serve you. And I got to tell you, you're going to see a Paul Winkler difference the first time you speak to one of these guys on the telephone. You will understand why I went with Paul and why I want you to as well. PaulWinkler.com or 615-851-1950. Set up a free 15-minute telephone call right now. Go to his website, paulwinkler.com or 615-851-1950.
A barricade situation in Columbia, Tennessee right now that's stemming from a domestic dispute and an effort in Tennessee to get rid of the food tax but raise taxes on tobacco. We'll talk about all that and more coming up 30 minutes after the hour of 2 o'clock. SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
Young McMorey, that's situation has been going on since this morning, right?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
You know, obviously you're going to give us the update in a couple of minutes. You just hope that ends as best it possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without a loss of life down in Columbia. I heard first about that with Ken Weaver on Nashville's Morning News this morning, and the fact that it's not been resolved gives you a lot of consternation. So we're thinking about that situation, and Mac Morey will update us on it coming up in about 3 minutes or so. 227 SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. I know for a fact that Brian Wilson will be broadcasting from some portion of the Tennessee Capitol or on the Capitol grounds, because I was watching as Ken Weaver, his illustrious producer, was setting up that shot just moments ago. So you'll not only be able to hear Brian.
Chris Webber.
Who did I say?
Ken Weaver.
Oh. I'm very confused. I'm very tired. I think I need a nap. It's been a Monday. Yes, well, one of those W guys setting up the shot earlier just moments ago. So Brian will be live from our state's capital in advance of the State of the State address, and I'm certain that he'll have a number of individuals on. We had Commissioner Ely on earlier to discuss the transportation situation as it exists, urban and rural both, and what their plans are over the next year in the Lee administration and in the next 4 years in the Lee administration, and how to shorten the time it takes on some of these road projects and get more access to the people involved in how they conduct these projects. And I didn't know, he told us something. When we leave the station every day, I don't know how you go, Bell. You probably go, do you take the loop or do you avoid it? But you go to the, in relation to where we are at the station, to the left, right? You get on to Munbrian and take the left.
No, I go
to the
right.
loop.
I go right over the top and go up to Ellington.
Oh, okay. So you see, okay, well, then you see this every day. So that little area where they're putting a bunch of equipment and stuff, and they're putting it looked like prefabricated concrete.
Yeah.
That's for the Broadway Bridge.
Oh, I had no idea.
I had no idea either. So
why is it so far away?
Well, I think that's the only place, that's the closest they can get it.
Oh, well, I guess.
I mean, if you think about it, So the plans are to replace the Broadway Bridge this spring and summer. And as Commissioner Ely mentioned, they are already staging. So if you are on the loop and you see that staging area just before, if you're coming from 65 and you see the staging area where there's a lot of equipment and stuff, that is for the purpose of replacing the Broadway Bridge. Who knew? All right, it's Larry's turn in Clarksville. Larry, thank you for your patience. What's on your mind, buddy?
Hey, Matt, I was going to do this call in my best Jason Clare voice because he's right up there at Bell K on my list of heroes, but this is far too serious. I worked with NORAD, and I agree with Gary. And, Matt, you hit the most important nail on the head, that if this did happen under Trump, he was not notified. Let's remember that all of the generals, when Trump took office, were appointed and promoted by Barack Obama.
Well, Milley was no friend of Trump. And here's what I want to know. And I did a little, I reminded myself of how this went down because I had forgotten. The United States of America's top general, Mark Milley, who is chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, called a Chinese general, his counterpart with the People's Liberation Army, in October of 2020. And this, well, there's a couple of names I could call him, but I won't, general, around the President of the United States, spoke with his Chinese counterpart regarding war with China and the potential election loss of Donald Trump. He engaged in a telephone call that he claimed was to assure the Chinese people that they wouldn't allow the President of the United States to go to war with them. Sir, that is not your call. You don't get to decide what you tell or don't tell the commander-in-chief, regardless of who that is. Now, maybe you're like a pig in slop now because you don't have to tell Joe Biden anything. He couldn't remember it if you did. But it is disgusting that we allowed, and he continues to serve.
At bare minimum, that man should have been dishonorably discharged at minimum.
Right, and Millie's still serving as chair of the
Yes.
Joint Chiefs. Disgusting.
Absolutely no repercussions for that at all.
No, it's just like it's another day. And he called him twice. He called him in the right before the election, and then called him in the aftermath of the January 6th insurrection. So in a moment, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll go to Mac Morey and deliver the news, but I'm interested in giving you a preview of what Brian Wilson's got up his sleeve for his portion of the broadcast day, and I believe he's up and running on Access 2 as we speak. And so we will perhaps get a preview with Brian Wilson and The Drive coming up as to what he has and who he has coming to the show and the State of the State address. That's next on The Murphy Show, SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
2:32. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 63 degrees. Just a beautiful day. The sun flying high in the mid-state today. Weather and traffic headed your way just a few minutes. A barricade situation is still underway in Columbia at a home on McKinley Drive off Dew Lane in the Golson Woods development. Officers and firefighters responded to a domestic dispute this morning to help a woman, and when inside of the home, they were met with gunfire. They responded back with shots of their own, then they fled out of the house. They then set up a perimeter. Right now, there are no known injuries to anyone inside of the home or any officers. Officers are working to negotiate with the man inside of the house to come to a peaceful resolution, and some nearby neighbors have been evacuated to safety. The 47-year-old man barricaded inside of the home is said to have active warrants for his arrest stemming from this domestic situation. And in staying in Tennessee, there is an effort to get rid of the food tax, but raise taxes on tobacco in the state.
Fox 17 says lawmakers will debate bills that would shift the state sales tax on food to tobacco. So the taxes you currently pay for cigarettes would double to 8%, and the taxes on other tobacco products would go up from 6% to 17%. This bill says the effects of tobacco is costing everyone in Tennessee, even if they don't use it, through increased health insurance premiums. The bills say the average household tax burden due to smoking-caused government expenditures is estimated at $1,116. And again, that goes for households that have never touched a cigarette. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN 239. You have not heard over my course of my little portion of the broadcast day, you've not heard a lot of talk about the Grammys. There's a good reason for that. It's because I didn't watch the Grammys, and I have no interest boring you for 3 hours, regurgitating something that you didn't watch either. Anyway, that said, I did watch a little of the basketball over the weekend, and a lot of people are clapping back at Mac Morey over whether that was a foul or not. Mac, I'll let you handle that. In the meantime, I'm going to talk with Brian Wilson, who's down at the Capitol in advance of the State of the State. I don't know why. I'm a nerd. I love these politics, this kind of thing. So I love the table setting. I love all of the advance work that goes into something like this, the pomp and the circumstance. And I think Brian Wilson does too. Hey, Brian, how are you, man? What are we hearing in terms of priority? We spoke with Commissioner Butch E. Lee earlier today about the transportation portions of the speech. But what else are you anticipating, Brian? What are you hearing from the Capitol? I also am curious whether the governor focuses on the issue of foster care in the state of Tennessee. I know you've talked about it, Brian. I've discussed it as well. It doesn't seem to get the attention that some of these other issues do. I think it's well worth it giving it that attention, considering Tennessee is better than allowing youngsters to languish in foster care in the manner that they have been. And it's my understanding the governor wants to address that, as does the General Assembly. Well, I'll give you back to it, Brian. I know that you're hard at work getting prepared for the drive with Brian Wilson this afternoon, and the governor will come in at right around 6 o'clock. Is that correct? Well, of course. I mean, you can't help yourself. But well, look, we're looking forward to all of that. Did you get it? By the way, in traveling to the Capitol today, did you happen to go down Donald Trump Boulevard? Have they renamed that yet?
One thing I can say is if these chairs came from that era, people back then had very small butts. That's all I can say. These are the worst chairs that I've ever sat in my life. But
well, Brian, people from not many people are as tall as you from any era. So in their defense back in the day. But you're right. If folks listening to us, I don't know if you had the same reaction, but if you've never been to Tennessee's Capitol, the history there is just, it's palpable when you walk into the place. And secondarily, I am amazed that they've managed to function in that Capitol as they have for the many years that they've been functioning in that Capitol. The fact that they still meet, the Senate and the House still meets in that body is amazing.
Yeah. It's a great old building, and it has a tremendous amount of history here.
Looking forward to the drive with Brian Wilson. Brian, thanks for spending some time with us.
Absolutely, anytime, Matt.
All right, man. There's Brian Wilson. He'll be with you in about 20 minutes or so, live from the Capitol building, as we mentioned. He's broadcasting down there. And it's my understanding that several of you on the TV feed were not able to hear Brian. It's one of those things that when you birth a new baby, that's part of it, right? So who knew that if I'm back in home studio that you couldn't hear on Access? Maybe that, I don't know why. I have no idea why, but we're aware of it.
I figured it out at the end.
Oh, okay. Well, then there you go. Yeah. So there you have it. See, problem solved. We can check that off our list. How about that? I mentioned renaming Donald Trump Boulevard. I don't know if this is a troll or what. I don't know if Republican members of the General Assembly have decided that they just want to screw around with some of the Democrats. But I think it's absolutely delicious. There has been a proposal put on the table on the part of the General Assembly to rename a portion of John Lewis Boulevard to Donald Trump Boulevard. And just right on cue, the leftist Democrats have absolutely lost their minds about it. So that's on our radar screen. I'm just amused by it more than anything. By the way, my standard rule of thumb hasn't changed in 20 years. Well, since I've been doing talk radio. I've always been of the mindset, do not name anything for anyone alive except Dolly Parton. You can name anything, Dolly Parton, anything that you want to name it. Other than Dolly Parton, if someone is still alive, wait until they pass away before you name something for them. But, Matt, they don't get to see the honor while they're alive, and that's not fair. If they're deserving of the honor, they don't care. So if the response is, but we want to honor them to show them how much we love them, there's another way of doing that. It's really the same. It's the same line of thought that I have for you putting crap on the back of your car with your kid's name on it. Don't put something on the back of your car with your kid's name on it. Nobody gives a crap if your kid made straight A's. Nobody gives a crap if your kid is good at softball or cheerleading. All you're doing is telling pedophiles what your kid is interested in and what their names are. Have y'all seen these stickers I'm talking about?
Yes.
They're all over the place. Yeah, but that's how they raise money for these programs. Give them $20 and don't take the sticker. Yeah, but I want my kid to know that I'm proud of them. If that's the way you're telling your kid that you're proud of them, you're doing it wrong.
Maybe just
tell them.
Tell them. Oh, and also, nobody cares if you compost.
And nobody cares how many kids and dogs you have. Nobody wants the little stick figure thing on the back of your car. But that's of less importance to me than the kid thing. You're announcing to people who want to do your child harm what their name is and what their interests are and what school they go to a lot of times. Because the parent that has the little softball thing and that says Kaylee on it, with a little softball, oh, Kaylee likes softball. And look, over on the other side of their bumper, she also makes straight A's at You're Going to Get Abducted elementary school. I feel the same way about naming things after famous people. I don't care if it's Donald Trump or John Lewis or anyone in between. Just wait until they're gone. Just wait until they're gone. That way, you can be assured once they're dead that they're not going to do something that might make you think better of naming something nice after them. A good example of this, and many of you in Tennessee might not be aware of this name, but his name was Richard Scrushy. If Richard Scrushy did not rise above the waterline to you a number of years ago, let me explain in 50 words or less. Richard Scrushy was the CEO of Health South. A lot of people invested a lot of money in Health South. The stock was propped up on a lie and a series of financial entanglements that eventually led to Richard Scrushy going to jail and Health South becoming worthless. And a lot of people invested a lot of money into Health South. And they got burned because of financial fraud. Everywhere you went in Birmingham, Alabama, something was named after Richard Scrushy. And they had to rename it all because Richard Scrushy went to prison in disgrace for defrauding people of their hard-earned money. So be careful about who you honor until they're dead and they can't do bad anymore or bad at all. It's 2:50. We're going to do right by the clock and be back to finish this up in just a moment on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. On the next Matt Murphy show, it's dueling state of the... Wait, let me see how I'm going to say this. A titillating edition of the Matt Murphy Show as we review the state of the state and preview the State of the Union. Do not worry. I promise I'll make this interesting. It all starts at high noon on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. Shut up. Well, you want me to do it again? I can do it again.
Take a look at the Chinese balloon that flew over the states for a few days and a barricade situation still going on in Columbia, Tennessee. We take a look at that 3 o'clock right here, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Right. All right, that started off as the laziest news tease in the history of news teasing, but you made up for it on the back end. And, Chinese water balloons.
Can we be honest about something?
Well, we can be honest about anything, Bill.
They didn't shoot the balloon down. They just popped it.
Someone asked this question: Why did they have to shoot it down with a missile? I forget where I heard this. It might have been on Michael's show. Why did they shoot it down with a missile? Why didn't they just pop it with a couple of bullets? Because the thing would have it would have come down slowly, and you could have captured all of the information in the intelligence gathering apparatus at that point. Instead, they blew it out of the sky, for goodness sake.
Oh, they popped it. Then all the COVID and everything that was COVID-20.
I saw there was some great memes going on. There was a guy that did something where he was trying to communicate with the balloon by holding a balloon of his own and going, like whale sounds. Like, no, that's not it. That's not it. By the way,
that thing red and called it an it promotion.
Before I go, Mac Morey, a Kansas City Chiefs fan is mad at you for changing your shirt to Tennessee, said if the Chiefs lose this Sunday, it's your fault. 2, Mac, the UT defender was straight up legal defense. Come on, man. The UT Vols never foul. That's John from Lawrenceburg. So.
I love it.
There you go. That's good. That's good spirit. Brian Wilson is live from the General Assembly, from the Capitol, I should say, as he presents the drive to you. Until such time as the State Address, we're back tomorrow at high noon. Until then, have a great day, folks. So long.
It is 3 o'clock. I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Right now, 64 degrees and a sunny day in Music City. Weather and traffic coming up just a few minutes. Recovery efforts are underway off the coast of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, for the payload of a Chinese balloon that the U.S. military shot down over the weekend. The balloon was hovering over the continental U.S. for days. Officials say they wanted to wait until it was over water so the debris could not rain down on people on the ground. Chinese officials say the balloon was a weather balloon, but U.S. officials are denying that. They say it was likely a spy balloon. Here's Luis Martinez with more.
These stratospheric balloons can use altitude to kind of steer themselves and stay stationary. But there are reports that maybe there were some rudders or propellers on this craft. There's a lot of intelligence value here. And more than likely, it's going to help us inform us about this fleet that apparently China has of these kinds of balloons. We heard the reports over Colombia and elsewhere. And the United States officials telling us over 5 continents over the last couple of years.
And this balloon had the ability to maneuver itself, speed up, slow down, and to turn. It also had propellers and a rudder if they did want to change any